Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. All right, my friends, forewarning, I'm a little under the weather today. I'm sucking on razor blades. I don't know if it's the Kraken variant or the bird flu or white lung or if the Illuminati slipped something in my drink once and for all, but I'm not doing too well. But it helps to talk about things that are not doing even worse than I'm doing, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about, the global risks in 2023, the world according to Klaus Schwab and the good old boys, Dr. Evil himself at the World Economic Forum, hiding out in his Davos bunker. You know those Optimum bunkers, those lavish layers with the crystal chandeliers and the underground parking for all of their high-priced Italian sports cars and all the rest? Yes, those guys being guarded by 5,000 soldiers with all sorts of automatic firearms that we're not allowed to own. They have assembled a panel of experts and decision makers to let us know what the global risks are in 2023. What big catastrophes and disasters should we fear, and should we be ready to concede some of our rights and freedoms so that Klaus and friends can maintain their privilege moving into the brave new world? And we need to talk about stagflation. Dr. Doom himself, Nouriel Roubini, if there's any guy I trust for his perspective on the future, it's a guy who the mainstream media calls Dr. Doom. But I actually agree, stagflation is coming. If you don't know what stagflation is, you will by the end of this video if I can make it through it. We're also going to talk about, Europe, NATO, United States, they're now at war with the Russians unofficially. Once again, another red line has been crossed. Mark my words, this time next year, if we're not in nuclear winter, which some people say doesn't exist, but let's just assume for the sake of this joke that it does exist, then we're going to see F-35s and all manner of heavy equipment being sent to the front line. This is where we're going. We're only a stone's throw away now from Abrams tanks and F-35s in Ukraine. So get ready, guys. Britain's sending tanks. The Baltics are preparing because they know it was likely Russian saboteurs who took out the pipeline between Latvia and Lithuania as a retaliation for something. The Russian military is continuing to conscript covertly 1.5 million, creating 24 new divisions of soldiers. And even if they can't get them, apparently they're now sending these new combat robots that we're going to talk about, these autonomous robots powered by artificial intelligence. So this may go down as the war of automation when all is said and done, with the drones and the robots and stuff. Yeah, that's coming. We're going to do a reaction video to Klaus Schwab talking about the potential for a global cyber attack. I wasn't even aware of this video. Apparently this was released last year, but we're going to do a reaction video to it. I just realized that you guys can see my music interests on the side here. We got some drum and bass. We got some Nine Inch Nails. We got some Jimi Hendrix. That was the Maui concert, excellent concert. We got some Johnny Cash, Cranberries, Massive Attack. So I like all music. I like anything that's got soul. You don't see the Sepultura and all the other hip hop and stuff that I would normally listen to here also. So I like everything. And of course, at the bottom, a lonely old hermit, John Campbell, talking about excess deaths in all age groups. We ain't even gonna go there. I'm already demonetized pretty much anyways, so we ain't gonna go there. China coronavirus, 60,000 dead. So they've come out and they've confessed, yeah, actually, 2 people didn't die last month. It was actually 60,000. Sorry, we screwed up, right? You can trust us from here on in. It wasn't actually 600,000, just 60. And that might explain why they've been banning photos, videos of cemeteries and hospitals and all the rest, because COVID deaths have been surging. And even here, we got the receipts. Look at all this. This is coffins. This is actually cemeteries, pictures of these cemeteries that are propping up because they just got to deal with this mass excess death that they're seeing. Before we dive into any of this, and before we deal with Klaus Schwab and his predictions, I like giving you guys practical advice on this channel. For anybody new to this channel, Most of our videos historically are all practical stuff, okay? We do gear reviews, we do how to survive in various emergencies, we bring on experts to share their expertise about a variety of different things, and we like to do gear reviews as well. We like to show you guys novel offbeat survival gear that you're not going to see everywhere, and it also helps pay the bills. So I like giving you guys the inside scoop on what's out there. This is Battlecord. Most people are familiar with paracord. It's been a staple of bug out bags for decades. It's typically 550, which means that it can hold a 550-pound static load. Emphasis on static load. When you see 550-pound test, that means that if there was a 550-pound weight not moving or elastic or ballistic, then it would hold that load. This is 2,600 pounds Battlecord, okay? That is more probably than you're ever gonna need. I wouldn't say that you could use it for rappelling because it's probably not as abrasion resistant, but get yourself some Battlecord. For your bug out bag, use discount code PREPPINGGEAR at CanadianPreparedness.com, and you can get the good old trusty survival cord, which now comes in a variety of different colors. This is the XT version. So within this, you get Kevlar cord. So as you can see there, if you can see there, there's a variety of different strands. That's what makes paracord good, okay? For all you people, if this is the first video you've ever watched from a prepper, in this one, instead of just getting your standard 7 strands like you do in the 550 cord, you get Kevlar cord, you get fishing line, you get wax jute twine for starting fires. So there's no excuse not to have this in your bug out bag. We also just got in a nice stack of Mountain House rice and chicken. We were out of this for a long time. I believe we got about 700 in on this last shipment. Very hard stuff to get, and the price of this stuff is just skyrocketing. Get a load of this. This expires in 2052, and unlike that other crap that those stores are trying to sell you in the big buckets, the 30-day buckets, this actually tastes good and contains real chicken. Now, some people are going to say, oh, there's a high sodium content. That's going to be the last of your concerns when the shizzy hits the fizzy, all right? And I highly doubt that some of you who are saying that are 100 when it comes to taking care of your health right now. So don't get all particular when it comes to preparing for the end of days. But honestly, great tasting stuff. And the price of this has doubled, easily doubled in the last 10 years. And by 2052, this is probably going to be good, let's face it, to like, 2152. Just like the grains of rice and the honey they found in the tombs of ancient Egypt, which was still edible. You can bet that this stuff is going to be good for a long time and retain its nutrition. The reason why they say 25 years, 30 years is just to err on the side of caution. But it's a sealed number 10 can. It's got oxygen absorber, and it's 99.9% of the moisture taken out. It's going to last forever. And imagine how much this is going to be worth in 2052. Just imagine with the inflation rate right now, do the math. 6 to 10% a year for 30 years. I'm not even going to try to do that math, but I know that this is going to be very, very expensive, which is why this is a great substitute for precious metal. The only difference is you can actually eat it, all right? We also have lots of Peak Refuel in stock. My personal favorites, part of the reason why I like Peak Refuel is there's a lot of calories in it. And it's just good. Really big chunks of meat. Okay, you get 50 grams of protein, 1,000 calories in here. Okay, that's almost as much, if not more, than certain MREs. It's going to last longer than an MRE. It says 2027 on it, and that is just that's not by law. They could easily say this is going to last till 2050. For whatever reason, the company has chosen only 5 years. I believe you have to have certain laboratory testing and stuff like that. The fact is, this is freeze-dried food in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber. It's going to last 30 years. Don't worry about it. Go watch our video called the Truth About the Shelf Life of Foods. Okay, we got a variety of different other types of cordage. We got Kevlar cord. We got the heavy-duty rappelling rope that can hold 10,000 pounds dynamic load if you want that. And behind me, it's just a recommendation for you guys. This is the agricultural crown land map viewer for my province. There's probably an equivalent in your province or in your county, if you live in the United States, public land access maps. It's important to know where you can hunt, where you can bug out to that is not going to be infringing on someone else's property. Because the last thing you want to do when you're, trying to evacuate the cities with hundreds of thousands of other people is find yourself on somebody else's land who doesn't take too kindly to you being there. So this will show you where all of the crown land, that land that's still under the auspices of the Queen. Well, I guess not the Queen, it's the King now, right? And his henchman, Justin Trudeau. This will show you where you can hunt, where you can go and forage for food, where you can squat for up to 28 days, I believe it is. And and honestly, in the north, if you can get there, there's plenty of places to have boating accidents. That's just between me and you. You didn't hear it here, guys. But you definitely want to find a place to bug out if you're not privy to, and we're talking about end of the world stuff, right? Let's be honest. We're not talking about there's been an evacuation from your town because of a flood, so you got to go stay in a hotel. Even staying in a hotel, if you have to evacuate a major urban center, you're likely not going to be able to find one. So if you don't have a trailer, if you don't have an RV, if you don't have a cabin or some place to lay low, then you're going to have to find a nice, relatively, off the beaten path place that you can keep your family safe. So it's good to know your surroundings. If anything, just look at this. If you're a hunter, this is a great resource as well. It not only shows you the places where you can legally hunt, like agricultural, crown land, but also it will show you places like protected areas, regional parks, provincial parks, national parks, conservation areas where if the shizzy actually hit the fizzy, when there's no rule of law, obviously, if you had to survive, you could potentially hunt there. Not saying you do anything illegal. And stay tuned, guys. I'm going to be releasing a series of videos next week, which may well push me over the edge in terms of what's allowed on the platform, because I'm going to be giving you advice. We're going to be doing a kind of like, what was that one channel? He was doing things like Dark Prepper Mindset. If the grid were to go down, where are the points of interest in urban centers? And we drive all around town. We look at various places that might be points of interest, okay? Again, not encouraging you to do anything illegal, because as preppers, you're already prepped anyways. Your biggest task is going to be defending against the zombie hordes busting down your door. This is a great app, iHunter. This shows you where you can legally hunt without having to, worry about knocking on people's doors and asking for permission and seeing whether land is posted, because that's usually a big hassle, and it's a big deterrence to getting people out there to do hunting. Is that where do you hunt, right? It's not as easy as a lot of people might think. You don't just go out into the country and start hunting, because you're going to be on somebody's land 9 times out of 10, especially if you're right outside a municipality. So, this app is actually really good. I would encourage you to get it. I think it's only $5. They did not sponsor the channel. Just another practical recommendation. All right. Let's get back to the good old boys' recommendations for what we should fear and how we're going to lose our rights. But before we do that, let's react to Klaus's warning about cyber attack. I didn't realize this video was released last year. Somebody brought it to my attention in the last couple of days. So let's check this out.
For a great reset. So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
Okay, whoa.
One way, this fun.
Normal for us ain't going to happen again, but normal for them in their operative bunkers is going to happen. Now, I can't get over, okay, like if you were ahead of the PR department at the World Economic Forum, why on earth would you give us Eggman? Why on earth would you give us Dr. Evil? Give us Miss Ukraine 2023. Give us somebody convincing. Even give us Zelensky. I mean, I know, guys, but just something better than this. It's almost like they want to be provocative. It's almost like they want to create conspiracy theories so that they can just crap on anybody who, tries to go against this. because they easily could package this much better and they could sell it a lot better. The fact that they aren't, even with this ominous music and the Great Reset, and come on, it's like they're trying to be provocative. Anyways, let's continue on.
It's a good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
There is only one way this pandemic is going to go. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario.
Wait a minute, whoa.
For comprehensive cyber.
You see what he just said? Pay insufficient attention. I know English is not his first language, but that was definitely a Joe Biden moment there.
Attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital service.
Okay, so he's talking about the threat of a global cyber attack to bring down the grid. That is one of the biggest threats that we're facing right now, according to the World Economic Forum. Now, I can tell you right now, the only way that happens is if it's perpetrated by a nation state like Russia or China. And if that happens, that would be grounds for the invocation of Article 5, i.e. World War III. So what he doesn't really say is that a cyber attack of that scale, if it's even possible, some people say that a cyber attack, a coordinated one like that, that they don't even have the capability to do that. I would say they probably do. They're not doing it yet because it would elicit a kinetic response from NATO. It would mean World War III. That's what he's not saying. He's saying, what do we do in this case? Well, I'm sure they're going to have some sort of solution that is not going to infringe on their oppidum party that they're having in the Swiss Alps. But let's hear what else he has to say.
Our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
Okay, I guess it would. I don't understand the point. Maybe there was more to that video, but that's the only video I have to react to right now. If there's more to it, I'll go and we'll watch the whole thing together. But yes, indeed, the risk of cyber attack is real. We've done videos of that on the channel before. The only way you prepare for that is the same way you would prepare for any lights out situation. Effectively, you're preparing for a grid down situation where not only is the power out, but you may also have other critical infrastructure. I believe there are 12 critical infrastructural systems, from banking to water treatment to hospitals, to the power grid, to the internet, communications, all the rest. All those things would be compromised in a cyber attack, theoretically, in a comprehensive one. And the problem with a comprehensive cyber attack like that is that NATO or the Russians or the Chinese would likely see that as a precursor to an actual nuclear attack. So before you started shooting nuclear weapons, you would first do the cyber attack, then you take out the satellites, then you would launch the preemptive strike, okay? So, I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about a global cyber attack like that, the fact is they would unofficially be able to, they wouldn't, because there's plausible deniability with a cyber attack, you never really know who is responsible for it, but the only one with the capabilities to pull off a cyber attack of that scope would be a nation state with thousands of hackers working simultaneously, to the best of my knowledge. Now, we're entering the artificial intelligence age, so it's possible that with the help of AI, single groups, terrorist groups could pull something like that off, but I don't think they have access to that technology. So I'm guessing that they would know that it was a nation state that perpetuated such a thing. So if you're talking global cyber attack of that scale, you're also talking subsequent kinetic war, which would be incredibly bloody. Now, according to this panel, these experts, okay, that Klaus and friends have got together, they say that the highest risk for 2023 is an energy supply crisis. Now, the interesting thing with the energy supply crisis is that the United States has to keep the price of oil down in order to bankrupt the Russians. The only thing that is keeping the Russian economy propped up and preventing the descent into civil war, aside the what they call an existential war on their borders, is the fact that they're still getting good revenues from oil, natural gas, and other petrol-based chemicals. So if you take that away, okay, if you can artificially suppress the price of oil, which is what they've done this past year, and the only reason why inflation is not north of 10% is because of the release of oil from the strategic oil reserve. It's the only reason why. If they can't keep that up, then guess what? Price of oil is going to go up. Russia is going to be able to bankroll more troops, more tanks, and they're going to keep their party going as far as they can see it. They can perpetually fight this war as long as it takes. So what the United States is tasked with doing is keeping the price of oil down. How are they going to do that? Well, they're going to have to get more oil to market. That likely means they're going to continue to deplete the oil in the reserves in order to suppress the price. OPEC is not going to like that, which is why they're going to continue to cut on their end to keep that price high. So, yeah, there's going to be an energy supply crisis because at the same time you have global demand, which is only going to increase because you have China now opening up. Well, aside the 600,000 deaths that they had last month, or COVID-related deaths that they had last month, apparently they're going to be opening up this year. Energy demands are going to be through the roof. You have the developing world, many African countries that are starting to need more energy in order to industrialize. That means the price of energy is naturally going to want to go up because, of course, we've passed peak production, not peak oil in the usual sense, but peak production has been passed. So it's going to be very difficult in order for them to not completely deplete the strategic oil reserves, which in itself could create an oil crisis of apocalyptic proportions if we fully deplete those reserves. And if a war breaks out in the Middle East, then yeah, the energy price is going to the moon and beyond. So I'm thinking that's why the United States is saying, hold on a second, Israel, maybe we're going to have to let these guys get a nuclear weapon because we can't risk them closing the Strait of Hormuz and cutting off 20% of the world's oil tanker-based oil supply. We can't risk that right now, so you're just going to have to suck it up. You're going to have to suck up Iran with a nuclear weapon or having a highly enriched uranium because just the way it is. Cost of living crisis, absolutely. People right now making north of 6 figures are complaining that they're living paycheck to paycheck. Now, do they need that car that they're making that monthly payment for? Do they need to live in the cushy suburbs? Probably not. Regardless, the money is being devalued, which is why if you're looking for a safe haven that isn't precious metals, freeze-dried food is the way to go. Because I have a sneaking suspicion that that can of Mountain Oats is going to be worth like $200 if we are so lucky to make it to, never mind $200, I'm going to say $500 if we're lucky to make it till 2052. Rising inflation, of course, the only thing that's down with inflation is energy, and everything stems from energy. Everything is made from energy. Food, like the agricultural system, all the inputs, transportation, it's all energy. If you can artificially suppress energy, you can make it seem like inflation is staying down. Now, Nouriel Roubini, Dr. Doom himself, has said that we are going to see stagflation. What that means is that the prices of everything are going to go up, but wages are not going to go up. And unemployment is going to continue. See, typically in a recession, you also see deflation. People lose their jobs, demand dries up, so inflation goes down. That is not what we're going to see, according to Nouriel Roubini. The apocalyptic, the worst case scenario, isn't wheelbarrows full of money, like you've seen in the Weimar Republic, to buy a loaf of bread. No, that's fine, right? That's fine because as long as inflation in itself is not bad. It's not bad if your paycheck is keeping pace. So if it costs you $2 next year instead of $1 this year to buy a loaf of bread, as long as your wage doubles, then it's fine. Everything can inflate relatively. Rising tides raise all ships, whatever sort of metaphor you want to use. But it's when your wage is not commensurate with the increase in inflation, that's when problems happen. That's what's called stagflation. And of course, people will start losing their jobs, and that is very, very bad. And you could also say that the quality of things is likely degrading too, because a lot of this stuff we're buying in the supermarket nowadays just doesn't taste like how it used to. Perhaps isn't even as nutritious. We know that it's not as nutrient dense as it was back in the day, so that's another problem. But yeah, rising inflation is a problem. Cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, that's going to continue. And the problem with that one, as I've been saying, they're never going to admit it because no company wants their stock price to go down. Remember the Rogers thing that happened in Canada here where the ATMs wouldn't work earlier in the year, or the airplane stuff with Southwest or American Airlines or whatever it was in the last month where they just said, oh yeah, it was a file that we forgot to put. Bull SHTF. Bull SHTF. Guys, they're never going to admit to these cyber attacks. Okay, they're always going to say, because then you have to explain that to your shareholders, and your stock price dips if people know that there's not security in their investment, right? So I think that the cyber attack is a big thing. Is it, like as Klaus Schwab says, going to be apocalyptic? Maybe, but if it's that big in scope, then we're going to see World War III follow it up. The food supply crisis, I would have to agree with that. Now, I should say, I think I explained this, but I've been just rattling off stuff so fast here that I forget. But anything in this top right corner is highly likely to happen, according to Klaus Schwab's good old boys. And anything down here is not so likely to happen. Food supply crisis will be an issue because of the fertilizer crunch. The price of fertilizer has skyrocketed. Of course, the agricultural output of Ukraine is down year over year significantly, and you have the whole grain deal being brokered by Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine, which is still problematic, which is going to lead to famine in many places, they're saying, not counting all of the extreme weather disasters where you're seeing drought one year, flooding the next. This all puts a lot of stress on our ability to produce food. They're talking about record low corn production this year relative to, I believe it was 2008, so the lowest corn yield since 2008 in the Midwest, and that's because of the fact that there still is a drought. California, they're now starting to have that drought mitigated by these atmospheric rivers. Regardless, that's not going to necessarily increase production because flooding isn't good either. You get different types of blight and other sorts of diseases emerge, and you're going to have pestilence emerge after that. So any extreme weather event is never good for the food supply. So yeah, the price of food is only going to skyrocket, which is why this is the new currency. Disruption in global supply chain, non-food goods, yes. A lot of people are happy because apparently there's been deflation in the tech sector. So TVs are 14% less than they were last year. Well, that's great. But if something breaks off with China and Taiwan in the not so distant future, it's game over for cheap TVs and cheap iPhones. They're going to go the way of used cars during the pandemic, and they're going to skyrocket. So hold on to your TVs and all of your electronics, and those used phones that you think have no value right now, they may well be very, very valuable in the future if that disaster emerges. And funny, they don't say anything about that. I mean, they put the deployment of nuclear weapons way down here at the bottom. Meanwhile, Klaus and friends are the ones playing with fire because all of the part of the good old boys, or all the NATO boys as well, who are saying, yeah, let's keep sending heavy equipment to Ukraine. You know, Rishi Sunak, we're going to send 14 main battle tanks to Ukraine this month. Then Poland's going to send some Leopard tanks because they've given the green light from Germany. Then, all these other countries, France, they're going to continue to send light tanks. United States will send light tanks. And eventually, we're just going to send some Abrams and some F-35s, at least the ones that work anyways. So, that it's almost like they're trying to make people not worry about this. So this really is much higher. Many, many military experts, even ones who are pro-NATO, who are pro-Ukraine intervention, are saying that we're at the highest risk of nuclear war than we've ever been before. So for them to put this down here, because they know they can't really do a whole lot with this, right? You can't impose a carbon tax. You can't tell us not to use gas. You can't force us all into sleeping pods with shared bathrooms and stuff like that. It's not fun to them, right? So anyways, I shouldn't make fun of this kind of stuff because it's not fun. It's not going to be fun for anybody. Weakening of human rights. Since when has Klaus cared about human rights? I don't think they do, because there's a lot of this stuff going on in countries that they support for many, many years. So anyways, but that's a big threat to humanity. I guess if we're talking about authoritarianism, then of course they're going to have to get rid of Putin. Yeah, because because women's rights and stuff, or something like that. The rights of some blue-haired person somewhere is being infringed by Putin and his nuclear weapons. Structural failures in healthcare systems. Apparently, right now in the UK, they are seeing a high increase in excess deaths, where they're seeing that in many places around the world right now. But I think 4,000 excess deaths, so they have to build out new morgues. So this is different. Not really sure what the possible cause of that could be. Continued waves of COVID-19. Obviously, it's COVID. It's other things, we'll say. I'm not going there, guys. I'm not going to do it. We're already fully pretty much demonetized anyway, so we're not going to go there. But yeah, anyways, that's what Klaus and friends think we need to be worried about. So prepare to do something for your globe, not your country, your globe. Be prepared to sacrifice something so that the elites of the world can continue to live in their lavish underground oppidum, custom-made bunkers. Which is not to say, as sarcastic as I'm being right now, that these things are not real. There is an energy supply crisis. There is a climate crisis. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. We're living in the age of extremes, guys. That's not to say that means we all need to sign up for the social credit score and give away all our rights and freedoms. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that these things are real. There is a high likelihood of a major engagement between NATO and Russia that could be taken to the nuclear level. There is a food scarcity issue that we're having to deal with. There is all of these crises, the possibility for cyber attack. It all exists. That doesn't mean that the solutions that they're proposing are necessarily going to be in our interest. So don't confuse me saying these things exist with me endorsing whatever sort of solution is being proposed by Dr. Evil and friends. Okay? Just make that abundantly clear for people. What else do we got to rattle off today? Yeah, apparently soldiers, snipers, security at Davos, 5,000 soldiers were protecting the world's rich and powerful with fully automatic machine guns. Yes, let that sink in when they're coming for your guns. We talked a bit about the 60,000 dead. Did I show you guys? Yeah, I think I showed you a bit about this video footage of these cemeteries that they're building. It's still going to cost like $3,000, so it ain't cheap to have your cremated remains put into one of these mass-produced holes in the ground, unfortunately. In terms of the climate stuff, right now we're seeing record cold in certain places, record warm in other places. On the whole, record warm is the anomaly, especially in the regions where people actually live in large numbers. So you could see in the Midwest here, we're seeing record high temperatures. That is exacerbating the drought in those regions. According to climatologists, what you're going to see in terms of extremes is that in the interior regions of countries where we grow a lot of the staple crops and grains, you're going to see drought. In the exterior coastal regions, that's where you're going to see flooding. That's where you're going to see record amounts of precipitation, which is pretty much what we've seen in recent years, with the exception of California, who has been in a very extreme state of drought, which they've now started to pull out from. We'll see how long that lasts. They're now getting into a cycle of fire, drought, flooding, fire, drought, flooding, fire, right? Europe right now is, and I think this is why NATO continues to press against the Russian front, is because they didn't expect this. They didn't expect these record high temperatures. If we seen record cold temperatures, the price of natural gas would be skyrocketing, and all of these leaders, mark my words, would not be sending heavy equipment. Right now, they're thinking to themselves, you know what? We're going to make it through this winter, and we're probably now going to be good for next winter. So let's just go to it. Let's see if we can bankrupt the Ruskies this year. So that's what they're going to do. And yeah, so everything's screwed, and it's going to get worse. But the good news is you still have the internet, apparently. You still have 2 feet and a heartbeat. Well, I think 99.9999% of you. Even if you don't, the technology exists nowadays that you can be incredibly resourceful online, and you can do a lot with very little. So guys, don't despair about all this crazy stuff that's going on in the world. We still have a fighting chance to get ourselves in a very good position and situate ourselves to the best of our capability for when things do really get rough, okay? We're still in a time where we have the luxury of preparing. A lot of people in the world right now, they're already in SHTF, okay? Their day has come to an end, and it's dusk for them. And now it's time for them to endure the long SHTF winter, which we're not in yet, okay? We're still in the fall. We still have some time to prepare. So I'd encourage you to keep doing so. Keep focusing on your health. Keep focusing on self-improvement. Be a good, upstanding member of your community. Make sure you pay your taxes. Don't lose various articles of concern for the government in boating accidents. Don't break the law. Be a good citizen for the time being. But have a plan to take out everybody in the room if the situation dictates. That's the mantra of the Navy SEALs, I think. You know, be very good, be cordial, be pleasant, but have a plan to take out everybody in the room if the shizzy hits the fizzy, my friends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and go check out CanadianPreparedness.com because that's the best place to gear up. We just have the best gear. I'm going to outright say we have the best collection of preparedness gear, the highest quality, premium stuff. I'm not going to send you out into the field with cheap crap that's going to break on you and kill you, which is what, quite frankly, there's a lot of companies that have no bones about actually doing that to people. Okay, they're going to sell you this crap that is not going to last. Don't buy the pre-made bug-out bags that seem really cheap. They're made for single use. Yes, it's better than nothing, but you should take the time to do the research for every individual item. Now, I should say, I told you, I just lied. I said that was it, but I should say we are going to be releasing a pre-made